3 minutes ago. You mad, bro? This week, suggestions of racism are levied against the Steelers. Charges of whining are wielded by Raiders fans. And I was sent the best email I have ever read. Let's start with this jackwagon. For the record, he didn't send this tweet to me directly, but he deserves to be excoriated for it anyway. Steelers beat writers backing a GM who lowballs black athletes but gives Ben Roethlisberger, an alleged rapist, a free pass to do anything as a microcosm of what's wrong with the NFL's power structures. Joe Soriano, at Soriano Joe, March 23, 2019. The only negative commentary on structure that is happening here is that of Twitter. Because it gives ununiformed nobody like this guy a hot take platform that is counter to any truth of the matter. Low ball. Look at the money Kevin Colbert gave the likes of Maurkice Pouncey and Stephon Tuitt. Brown was the highest paid receiver in football when he signed his contract, and Bell would have been the highest paid running back if he had accepted the team's 2017 contract or the 2018 one before Todd Gurley's extension. None of that is to mention how the Steelers are keeping Ryan Shazier on the roster even though he can't play, how they retained Ramon Foster when they could have let him walk, how they gave Cordell Stewart the biggest contract in team history, and how they followed their own Rooney Rule protocol to hire Mike Tomlin. Yeah, what a bunch of racist jerks. I couldn't help myself. I had to take a swipe at this Raiders-related headline from Sports Illustrated. Until Antonio Brown tells me he isn't. https://t.co/vt2x7dog. But Tim Benz, at Tim Benz PGH, March 26, 2019. This Oakland fan called me out for that. Sour grapes. https://t.co/vdws for 6u. Go Irish, at The Irish Raiders, March 26, 2019. Take a drink of water, man. Very salty. Go Irish, at The Irish Raiders, March 26, 2019. Sour grapes. Yeah, probably. But how about Antonio Brown this week? He sent a tweet complaining about a trade he actually demanded. Are those sour grapes from him? And as far as being salty, give me a break. No more salty than the wide receiver who threw a hissy fit because his quarterback made one critical comment about him on a radio show. Brian disagreed with my response to Emmanuel Sanders' story that Colbert disrespected him during contract negotiations back in 2014 by comparing him to Brown. Colbert was kind of and asked to him, "You really think Colbert is some saint? If someone told you that you weren't better than someone that you didn't agree with, you wouldn't like it either." Brian Tinsley, at Brian_10s, March 25, 2019. Well, that depends. Do you really think that conversation went down exactly the way Sanders said? For instance, do you honestly believe he walked into Colbert's office and demurely said, "Mr. Colbert, I can't sign this, but thanks for the offer"? Then Colbert responded bluntly with, "You're no Antonio Brown." I'm going to assume it was a lot less confrontational than that. My guess is, it was more like, "Hey, Kevin. You gave $16 million over the last 2 years to AB. So I want more than that over 3. And Colbert said, "Well, we place a higher value on Antonio Brown." So perhaps, just perhaps, Sanders is recalling a different version of events for dramatic purposes. Because it's convenient. Because everybody is piling on Colbert and the organization. Nobody was doing that in 2015. Everybody is doing it in 2019. So it's easy for Sanders to do so now. In an email, Ed wanted to quibble with my recent articles about the NFL's proposed rules changes for overtime and replay. Good article. But your point about one team scoring a TD, then the next team scores a TD, and then Team A wins with a field goal. What happens if Team B goes for 2? And as to the Saints whining about unfair non-penalties, instead of complaints about the non-call, maybe their defense should have stopped the Rams from kicking the tying field goal. Ed, to your second point, that's fine. But I'd ask if you had the same sort of suck-it-up-and-deal reaction after the Steelers got screwed in games against the Saints and the Chargers by the officials. Regarding the overtime thing, sure, a team can go for 2. But when do you mandate going to? If you force the second team to go for 2 after the first team has the option of going for 1, the second team is still at a competitive disadvantage. Like me, my new best friend, David, is irate over the kissy face coverage of Le'Veon Bell from Sports Illustrated and the ESPN softball interview of Antonio Brown. Reading the coverage of Mr. Brown's greeted Mr. Bell's follow-on was just maddening to me. Mr. Brown appears deranged and Mr. Bell appears to be involved in an elaborate effort to explain, to himself and the world, why he's not an idiot. Rather than exploring history, context or subtext, your colleagues in the national media took the path of least resistance, trading exclusive access to a hot name for a promise, likely implicit, to avoid challenging the self-serving, self-deluded narratives. Which is to say, you did a good job where others failed. Hope your work gets some attention for it. I have nothing to add here. This is the greatest email in the history of the internet. Unlike Ben Roethlisberger, I may just invite David to my house. Tim Benz is a Tribune Review staff writer. You can contact Tim at tbenz@tribweb.com or via Twitter. All tweets could be reposted. All emails are subject to publication unless specified otherwise. Categories: Sports, Steelers, Tim Benz Breakfast with